Hello friends, welcome to another Letter Together Friday. In this video, we are going to break down one word into individual strokes, practice those strokes by themselves, and then squish them all together to create a word. So before I reveal what the word is, I want to give you a moment to pause this video, see if you can figure it out, and leave it in the comments below if you figure it out. I feel like this one you probably will be able to tell, but I can't tell if that's just because I know what the word is, so I keep seeing it, or if it's just really obvious. So let me know if you can tell before I reveal what this next word is. Now, if you are brand new to Letter Together Fridays, I have a Letter Together Friday playlist where you can start at the beginning and watch all of them through to the current Letter Together Friday. Or I have a playlist where you can watch these types of videos like the one we are doing today. If this is your first one, I would recommend to at the very least go back and watch the first one, because that one is where we are going to practice our basic strokes. So there's a free worksheet linked there that you can print out to learn the basic strokes of hand lettering or calligraphy, to help you get practice with those thick and thin strokes that make up kind of the basis of our lowercase alphabet. I will link that playlist in the description box below or at the end of this video if you want to go back there and start from the beginning. But otherwise, with that being said, let's go ahead and see what word we are practicing today. If you have not figured it out already, today's word is grateful. So these strokes up here create the strokes that when you put them together make up the word grateful. So let's go ahead and start with our strokes right here, and then we're going to go through those, and then we will practice our word at the end here. And if you did not get this printable already, you can find this one in the free resource library on my website. It is at howtohandletter.com/resource library. All right, in this video, I'm going to be using this Sharpie stained brush pen, but you could use any smaller to medium size brush pen probably for this worksheet set. If you use a larger size brush pen, you just might not have to push quite as hard because these aren't super big, but you should be able to use a variety of sizes of pens with this worksheet set. So we are just going to go ahead and start with our first one right here. And technically this is an oval. So I want to give you a close-up of this because there are different ways to create our basic strokes. So in our original video that I mentioned earlier, we practiced our oval like this. This is a pretty even oval, but this one has a little bit of a point, and that is definitely just a stylistic thing. If we change that, it's just going to change the look of our G and our A, but you can do it however you are comfortable. If you prefer an oval that is more like this, that's totally fine. But for this one, we're going to practice this variation of an oval that gives us this kind of modern look with our G and our A. Now our next stroke, if we were to have a stroke right here and then add a dot, it would kind of look like a J, but this is actually our second stroke of that lowercase g. And the reason why it comes up so high is because it's also the first stroke of our lowercase r. So instead of kind of doing a G and then ending here, picking up our pen, and then coming back and trying to make that look seamless, we're just going to go right from our G right up into our R. And that can hopefully help us to create a more seamless looking connection between the G and the R. If you are needing more practice than what's here, of course you can print these out a couple times, but I would also recommend investing in some tracing paper, because that way you can kind of practice over and over until you feel a little bit more comfortable. So with the second stroke in our R, we are just going to do a little crossbar. Now this is not a stroke that you see in our main basic strokes worksheet. This is just pretty much a line going from left to right. I'm not adding a lot of pressure to my pen because I'm trying to keep that a thin line. It's just really short and just that little connection piece between this side of our R and this side of our R. And then for our next stroke, we have an underturn, which we find here in our R. We find it in our A, and we find it in our U. Now, if you remember when you were pulling the pen down towards yourself, towards your body, or towards the bottom of the paper, you're going to push a little bit harder to create that thicker downstroke. And then when you go around the curve and go back up, you are just going to lighten up your pressure for that thinner upstroke. Now this one I probably didn't need to add because it is our crossbar of our T. It's a little bit bigger and more exaggerated than the one in the R, so I thought we would practice it, but you could definitely use this one instead and just create a straight line if you prefer that look. It's just a stylistic preference. And again, I'm not really trying to add any pressure there. Maybe there's a tiny bit of a downstroke in how it curves, but because it's so small, I pretty much just try to keep the same evenness throughout the entire stroke. And then our next stroke that we have is a lowercase e. So we're starting in the middle, going up really lightly, adding some pressure when we go around and come down, and then lightening up again as we end our E. This next stroke is a type of loop, and we are going to start at the top with a little bit of pressure to get that thicker downstroke, and then as we go around the bottom and come back up, we are going to lighten up on our pressure to create that thinner stroke. Now, this is the first stroke in our F. You could add this one and the next one together all at once, but I personally like to lift up my pen after this first part, and then I will do the second part of the letter as its own stroke. So for the second part, since I'm starting at the bottom and going up, I am pretty much keeping a thin upstroke the entire time. My pen is pretty flexible, so if there's any variation, it's not really intentional. I'm just trying to keep a thin upstroke throughout that whole thing. And then our last stroke is kind of a loop plus an underturn combined, which creates our L. So when we practiced our basic strokes, we practiced a stroke that looked like this, and then we practiced an underturn that started here and came up. But for the L, we just kind of combine them together and create one stroke here. So we're going to start in the middle, light on our upstroke, push a little bit more firmly, and then lighten up again. So again, start in the middle, thin upstroke, thicker downstroke, and then thin upstroke again. So now that we have practiced those, like I said, if you want to grab some tracing paper and keep practicing, you are totally welcome to do that. But I'm going to show you this word with two different colors. So I'm going to use my Pentel Touch, and I'm going to trade off colors after each stroke. So the reason I like to do this is because I think that it's a really good practice to lift up your pen. For me, I do it about after every stroke. And I think that just helps to kind of reset my hand, kind of helps me to refocus what I'm trying to do, helps me to get some nice spacing and even sizing and not rush and not go too fast. And so I think that this is a good visualization. As you practice, you absolutely don't need to switch back and forth between colors, but I do think that it can help you to see how we just took a few individual strokes and put them together to create an entire word. So one thing I want to point out is that when it comes to attaching our letters, which lettering connections can be a struggle spot for a lot of people when it comes to hand lettering, when it comes to attaching our letters, a lot of times I'm drawing right up into the next letter. So right here, this A, I'm bringing it all the way up here so that when it comes to my T, I'm just covering it up. So when I do that all with one pen, it kind of looks like a seamless connection. Same for the R into the A. It looks like that seamless connection, but really it's just that I'm overlapping here. So you can kind of see it here with the E and the F as well. I'll try to zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see that right here, a little bit right here, really with a lot of these. And so if you draw far enough up into the next letter, it can just help you to kind of create what looks like a seamless connection, even though it's more that I'm just overlapping those two strokes together. So let me show you with just the same color pen, and you can kind of see what that looks like. And I will go ahead and show you with that larger brush pen as well. So I hope this was helpful for you, and if you like videos like this, make sure to check out the playlists that I link in the description box below, or I will put them on the screen here. Thanks so much for joining me for this Letter Together Friday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you again next Friday for another Letter Together Friday.